Hey folks, in this video we are going to go through understanding boundaries, politics, ethics, forgiveness and individuation. Let's start with politics and personal boundaries. We all have boundaries, some with lots of open doors, some with strong boundaries, not allowing anyone to cross. But having efficient boundaries will help your self-esteem. Your decision making is a resource that operates the doors. Now imagine you have a certain level of power or charisma inside that boundary. That is the energy you decide to use when you open doors to various opportunities. A healthy choice would be win-win opportunities instead of win-lose opportunities. This means your strategies would differ. Example, your career strategy would not be the same as your love life strategy. When it comes to group boundaries, example a company, the boundary will be strong and mature, otherwise the company would not last long. The company will have a leader with the biggest boundary and usually the most resources too. You have other employees who relate to each other and the leader. So if you're thinking of joining the company, you would look at what the commonalities are to establish the boundary. The same would work for the family group. The commonalities are a set of ideas that they share. You can call them beliefs or values or a mission statement of a company. Ask yourself if you share the same beliefs and vision. Some individuals will have holes in the boundaries and exhibit weaker character like gossiping. Some will have rigid walls and be more stoic. Hopefully the leader doesn't have holes or walls but has doors instead. Assess if you can tolerate others' holes and walls and the environment. You could end up as a dumping ground for others' anger and anxiety if the people have poor boundaries around you. An innovator is someone in the company who has a lot of intellectual resources and comes up with original ideas and values that are not too far out from the boundary, which helps expand the company boundary. But if someone has an idea or value that is way out of that boundary, and somehow they manage to drag some people to the new boundary, it becomes a cult. More than likely, it will not last long as the boundary will not have enough support and resource. An internal sense of destructiveness versus constructiveness. It is a learned skill. If you hurt people and they give you feedback, you would put that in your conscience to inform you of bad decisions. The sophistication of your conscience is going to help the maturity of your boundary. If you have a low conscience, you want to be able to use your observing ego to see when you hurt people or make bad decisions. This in turn will help you raise your consciousness to know when you are going to make bad decisions, which will also help you close the door on yourself, knowing that you are tempted to do the wrong thing but to prevent yourself from doing it. Difficulty in forgiving yourself has to do with living in the past and having a strong emotion about it. Suffering is burning energy on the uncontrollable. When we shame ourselves excessively for too long, it's pathological grief, usually more than 6 months. Present guilt helps us as our observing eye to improve ourselves. Intention consists of various factors. We need education to keep our sights on the goal. We need our street smarts or experience to make us flexible enough to get around obstacles. We need our intuition to read the best options to choose. And we need our conscience or ethics to have an honorable goal. The original meaning of sin is to miss the mark. So if your conscience is lacking, you would have missed the mark of having a just and noble cause. If this is the case, be able to forgive yourself and change what you choose. Decision. On the conscience and intuition scale, the person with a lot of conscience will be top heavy on superego, meaning too much ethics and not much shrewdness. A wussy would be someone with a lot of holes in their boundary. Since the wuss will not have a good decision-making resource, they are more likely to have a partner who comes in and makes the decisions. Intellect. Someone with less experience and more education would be more of a wuss. Emotional energy. The wuss would be more on the well-being side and more nurture than there would be on the courage side. A boy wanting mommy to need him in a way. I have attached some links below if you want to go deeper into well-being, courage and confidence. Please note that this is not a bad thing, as everyone has been through this point in life. Those who don't spend much time with the observing ego or never learn to develop it will usually not mature. As a child grows up in the parents' boundary, and hopefully our parents filled us up with good stuff and told us no a lot, then the child learns to say no back. Later in the teens, we start budding off and individuating. Our boundaries are still weak outside, and we start forming deals with different kinds of peer groups. We look for or try to fit in groups that feel like they match our ideals and visions. This feeds our boundary and helps us form an identity to be independent of our parents. Finally, being separate and distinct, even though we are related and connected to different groups in politics. An example would be France being an individual country with its own distinctions while still being part of the EU and also being part of the world community. Thanks for watching. If these topics interest you, please comment below and I can get deeper into each one if you would like.